Welcome to the Way Park Planning Commission. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Roll call. We are all here tonight. John, is there any additions or deletions for the agenda?
No additions nor deletions.
Would move for approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the agenda for tonight. All in favor, signify with saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed, all present. Review the minutes from Tuesday, February 11th meeting. The only change I seen is put Don Blonigan and where Schultz is on the approval agenda.
We will get that corrected. I'm sure it was just a holdover from previous meetings as we get settled with the new makeup.
Move to approve the minutes. Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed with all present. Variances. Way Park Planning Commission will hold a public hearing at City Hall, 19 13th Avenue North, 6:30 or soon thereafter, on Tuesday, April 15th, to hear the following request. Request of McMeredith Development for variance from Way Park City Code, Article 5, Zoning Land Use Building Regulations, Ordinance 52, Zoning Code, Section 52.21, RM24, Moderate High Density Family Residential Subdistrict, to increase maximum allowing building height from 3 stories, 40 feet to 55 feet. And from Way Park City Code, Article 5, Zoning, Land Use, and Building Regulations, Ordinance 52, Zoning Code, Section 42.42, Parking and Loading Requirements. Subdivision 6C to reduce parking requirements. Public hearing opened at 6:33.
Planning commissioners, folks in the audience, anyone watching at home. This request again is being made by McMeredith Development. They are the property owners, and they also own and operate the existing Heritage Point Senior Apartments located on the southern portion of this property. I will hone in here on the general location map for reference in case anyone hasn't seen it. Existing facility located on the southern portion of the property. The focus area is immediately to the north in the same vicinity on the same parcel. This property is zoned currently appropriately for another multifamily apartment facility previously platted, so it is essentially ready for additional building. So what's being considered tonight is specifically the height and the parking request. The request is not being considered for the viability of the apartment in general. The request in our review is limited to solely the 2 requests at hand. If the project were being brought forward without the variance request, it would not necessitate public hearing nor special review or approval by the Planning Commission of the City Council. Again, our review and consideration is only for the specific request in front of you tonight. The applicants have met previously with city staff 2 or 3 times in site review and consideration and bringing the request forward. The site has natural features which limit the ability of the property to accommodate the development in what would typically be the probably the most natural fashion if you were working with a blank slate. The applicants have demonstrated that due to the soil conditions, including granite outcroppings and higher groundwater levels, and wetland areas on the site, that they're working through with other agencies that have oversight of those aspects. Excuse me. The development is limited to a more confined footprint. In order to accommodate the parking, even with a reduction being requested via the parking requirement variance, parking would be on the ground floor for the indoor portion underneath the, or excuse me, ground floor of the building, which would necessitate additional story of development and thus exceed the standard for that district, which is typically 3 stories or 40 feet, whichever is less for that RM24 multifamily district. The request has been established to go to 55 feet at a maximum, although realistically, as designed would firm up, it would come in probably less than that ideally, but the 55-foot request would be a maximum. The attached site plan was prepared for the applicant and is submitted for consideration as it depicts the proposed building envelope and parking layout. If approved, the requested variances would allow for the more condensed building layout that's kind of in front of you, although the exact building layout and configuration may change slightly if the variances are ultimately approved, but would most likely be largely consistent with this site plan. Again, the applicants have advised that they would intend to construct the building to the minimum height possible beyond the standard and to utilize a low profile roof as is feasible for typical pitched roof. Regarding the parking reduction request, excuse me, the applicants are requesting a parking allotment based on 1.75 stalls per unit. The standard parking requirement for multi-unit housing is 2.5 stalls per dwelling unit. With the proposed 66 units, at the standard requirement would be for 165 parking stalls, and the total requested parking demand would bring it down to 115 stalls. As senior-oriented housing, the applicants have advised that there is a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units that many of the residents either typically have 1 vehicle per unit or sometimes do not drive at all and don't have a vehicle, thus having a lesser than usual parking demand than similar units marketed toward working age adults or families. And staff review the other typical parking demand and abundance of open parking stalls for their 2 existing facilities in the community, both in this location to the south and another elsewhere in town. I can confirm that aspect that we don't see a typically heavy demand for parking in the stalls. A parking allowance of 1.75 stalls per unit would be satisfactory for the intended use of the project as senior-oriented apartments, as well as sufficient for any long-term potential change in use of the property to standard multifamily housing should that ever occur. There's no intent for that, but we have to potentially factor that in, that over time, perhaps many years down the road, that could change. The parking layout has been designed to utilize the buildable area while minimizing impacts to existing adjacent residences and also to work around the existing pond that you see there, this vicinity here, that's intended to be utilized to meet stormwater management requirements. We don't have specific engineering detail at this time because the project is basically in cursory review. Typically when you apply for variances or site specifics like this, you don't necessarily have a full set of building plans ready because you don't want to incur that cost if this request were not to be approved. But our city engineer and public works director have been involved with working and meeting with the applicants, so any of those aspects would be addressed if the project moves forward. Again, it's possible that minor reconfiguration of the site and parking layout may occur before construction ultimately occurs, but the overall height and parking limitations would apply if the variance requests were approved. I believe that the applicant has demonstrated practical difficulties for this application and that the difficulties and hardship are not self-caused, but rather a feature of the natural environment of the property, and that they've demonstrated aspects in their design to minimize impacts on neighboring properties and need for variances, while still retaining a buildable area for the development. I am supportive of the variance request, just knowing that some of the fringe areas and kind of the outskirts of the community, we do have kind of unique topography in our community, so it's likely as we continue to grow and develop at our fringe that we will see more requests like this in time. So we may ultimately even try to address our ordinances to accommodate that as we work through zoning update. We're in a little bit different situation than a lot of communities where the ground is perhaps a little easier to work with, but I think the applicants are showing that they're doing everything they can to bring a viable project forward and minimize the need for variance here. Again, I'm supportive of the variance request, but I would add we are in a public hearing. The applicant is in attendance and can perhaps speak to any questions that I'm not able to answer, so we can go ahead and open it up for questions or comment.
Okay, this is a public hearing. If you want to speak, come up to the podium, state your name and address.
If anyone comes up, if you could use the microphone at the seat next to the podium, that would be appreciated.
I'll go first. Hello, my name is Jean Dockendorf. My address is 1209 2nd Avenue South, Waite Park. My husband and I are the owners of the 40-acre property named Arrow Rock that borders this Heritage Park property to the west and north. I have owned this property since 1987, a number of years before the existing Willow Park apartments were constructed. Arrow Rock is currently a managed woodland with a stewardship plan on file with the DNR. We have a private road easement from 2nd Avenue South back to our property that's labeled Private Drive on the map that was included as part of this hearing notice. I appreciate the opportunity to comment on the developer's request to increase the maximum allowable building height from 40 to 55 feet. While I understand that the property is zoned for multifamily development and that there is a similar building to the south, I strongly oppose granting this variance for the following reasons. First, the primary justification for the request is that the site has unsuitable soil conditions for the underground parking, as you indicated. And that is entirely true. This location is just not a good fit for a development of this scale. Although dry now, this is primarily a wetland, and if a project cannot meet the zoning code's height and parking standards due to site limitations, it's a good indication that they're trying to put too big a development in too small a space, and that the project should be scaled back rather than asking the city to grant a variance on these long-standing protections. Second, and I know you said some of this is still being addressed by the city engineer, but there are a number of stormwater drainage concerns already cited by the developer and others. On this map, you can see where the red circle is placed over the existing stream. And previously, SEH, the city's engineering firm for many years, I don't know if they still are, but had indicated that this stream drains some 1,500 acres to the south with a mere 1 foot of slope drop across the entire property. Goes through a culvert under our driveway and into the big swamp behind Sunwood Park development. This area is mostly wetland and swamp that is also important environmentally. During my meetings establishing the woodland plan, meeting with the DNR and that sort of thing really stressed this. And I can show you photos where as recently as May 13th, 2022, where we had such a heavy rainfall that much of the circled area on that map flooded, including far into my road labeled Outlot A, which had never happened before. This stream drains not only my property, but the Libesmeyer Farm and other properties to the south, and that stream needs to be protected. Increasing building height and pavement will reduce the permeable surfaces and increase runoff and strain on this small stream. Third, the developer is not only asking for increased height, but also for reduced parking requirements. The additional height obviously means more units, residents, and vehicles, even though it, as you mentioned, it is for seniors, yet fewer places to park, and there are really no other spillover parking areas other than our private driveway if they should need, there's no street parking in that area. Fourth, increasing the building height from 40 to 55 feet dramatically alters the scale and visual impact on nearby properties such as mine. Even with a similar building to the site, adding this building is setting a precedent for an oversized development in a space that is too small. All surrounding properties are single family or fourplex. And if this continues, we continue to lose the cohesive, livable character of our community. Fifth, this plan appears to make our current driveway, which is a private road and not plowed or maintained by the city, into the main entrance for this new apartment, and that hasn't been addressed. Sixth, the site plan seems to indicate that a fence and trees will provide a visual berm between the fourplexes and the new apartment, but no such fencing is shown to protect my property from a view of this very large structure over the height limit. And finally, if the commission considers approving the height increase, I respectfully request that you also require a greater setback from my property line. A 55-foot tall structure has a much larger visual and privacy impact than the 40-foot one, and is significantly more intrusive on neighbors. And also, any parking lot should have a substantial setback from the existing stream. So thank you for your time and consideration, and my request to deny this variance. I also want to point out that on the other map, there is a mistake that it says that beyond Outlot A, up there in the very top right, it says that that's Quarry Park, up a little, right there, a little to the left. Yep, that says Quarry Park. It is not. That is my lot 1 of my property. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come up and speak?
My name is Brian Bennett. My wife Tanya, our neighbors Mark Labuda and Sherry Nelson. We border, if you can go to the other map. So our residences right now, I'm at 1100, Mark is at 1106, and Nelson's are at, Sherry's at 1114. 1118, they have kids. Sherry and her husband have grandkids. I'm concerned, and actually very concerned with, and nothing that's been talked about that private drive. I'm very concerned that the amount of traffic that comes in there, thinking that that is a road to get to another subdivision when it's actually your private drive. The amount of traffic that comes back and forth, now you make that, obviously a tarred road, I'm assuming. There's a number of kids that play in that backyard. And I'm concerned, my kids are old and gone, but there's a number of younger kids that play in that backyard, and I'm concerned about the safety, people coming in and out of there. So I don't know how that's gonna be addressed. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Gail Bias, and I live at 426 Heritage Court. And my concern is, what driveway will you be using for all the heavy equipment that's going in? And, because we just got our roads completed at Heritage Court, Heritage Lane, and out to Second. I'm afraid if you're gonna be sending all those big trucks through there for us, past us, to do the apartment, I would hope you'd consider using the gravel road, and I don't mean to offend you by the private drive, but I hate to see our roads broken up because of the unit. So please, if you're going to approve this, please consider using the private drive or however you're gonna go out of that unit. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Ken Lubitz. I live at 1305 Heritage Lane, one of the patio homes just to the right of the red circle. Yeah, right there. I'm 1305. What Ms. Dockendorf has covered pretty much everything I had in mind, but I just wanted to state that this has been a beautiful kind of a nature preserve. It's, I think, made a great addition to the value of our homes along there with all the wildlife. It's also, with all those homes, it's where the new apartment building will be. That's kind of a gravel road or path right through there now. And that's a walking path for a lot of people in the area and their kids. Another big concern that has also been mentioned is drainage. Since that's all going to be blacktop or concrete parking lot and a roof, where is all that water going to go? Our properties on the Heritage Lane portion there are all, by line of sight as I look at it, slightly lower than where the building will be, and I'm concerned, very concerned with drainage. And on the other map, they show what appears to be shrubs that would be along my backyard. I'm curious, are those shrubs? Is it a fence? How many trees will be left? I would make a utter plea to keep as many trees as possible and have some type of dense privacy shrubbery like arborvitae trees, something like that, that grow dense. And in closing, I would like to put in a no vote on the variance. I was very surprised to see that this was all zoned or available for another big apartment building. I assume there's nothing any of us can do about that other than put in a no vote for the variance. Thank you.
My name is Tanya Bennett. I'm at 1100 Ashwood Court. I have a concern about the apartments. They're seniors now for housing. What's going to happen when 10 years, whatever, down the road, it changes to multifamily housing and the parking is not enough for that to facilitate all those extra cars that are going to be in there? If it's not for senior housing, where are all those people going to park? Because there's underground parking. You're going from 2.25 to 1.75, whatever. And if it's a two-family home with the kids that can drive, You've got 3 cars right there. There's not gonna be enough parking for everybody. Where are they gonna be?
The parking calculation that we did in recommending dropping it from 2.5 to 1.75 was partially based on the idea that as senior-oriented, it's designed as senior-oriented living, so there's probably a higher propensity of one-bedroom apartments, particularly. A one-bedroom apartment typically doesn't have the parking demand of a larger units. More market-rate apartments are, you know, anywhere from 1 to 3 bedroom is more typical. Just the design kind of dissuades families or people with young children. Doesn't mean they can't, but it would.
Exactly. But where are all those people gonna park then if they do have 2 people in the apartment that park, that have a car? There's not gonna be enough for everybody in those 66 units. So I am firmly against this building being
Well, I
constructed
would add
there.
that, should it come to that, and not that
Which
there's
it
any-
could.
It could.
Yeah.
Yes, there's nothing that says that it couldn't convert at some point. There's no plan or intent from the applicant. The applicants can speak to that. But they could always add additional parking in the remaining space as well, should they choose to.
It's already being crunched into a small space that they're trying to put this building into, and I'm firmly against.
That's why
that
that
building.
request is being made. Your
Yeah.
objection is noted.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Swarthout, and I live at 1265 Heritage Lane, which is on the end of the cul-de-sac. And then from my property, it leads into the property that is being questioned here. From my perspective, it's too small an area to do what they want to do. That's my main concern. My other one is, we had talked to the homeowner of that property at one time, both my wife and I. We stood in that property and we asked him, we had heard a rumor that you were going to develop this area. His answer was no. It won't happen. So now he's going back on his word. And I'm against this project. So that's my contribution, I guess you'd say. Thank you.
Mark Labuda, 1106 Ashwood Court. Who pays for damages once that comes through? Our lots are fairly small the way it is. Usually your backyard's your sanctuary. That you expect traffic in your front yard, but when you're talking 66 units, that if it's a retirement home, they have more time to go back and forth either. You're talking about probably 300 cars going back. It doesn't matter. It's not one trip a day. I mean, especially if it's senior housing, they have more time to fly by all the time. That's a lot of trips and back and forth. If you look at the lots along there, they're shallow. Plus you add a tar road in there, and basically you have a road in your front yard and your backyard, just tight. There's nothing in any of those developments. If there's a road on their backside, there's some kind of a buffer. There is no buffer there. Right now it's a narrow road the way it is. If you tar that, you're gonna have to make that a lot wider than what it is right now for in and out. And I could just imagine the heavy equipment back and forth on that road. I don't want that in my backyard. Would you want a road right up against your back property line with a shallow, I mean, like I said, usually your backyard's your sanctuary, and this wouldn't be it with, you could have between 200 to 300 trips a day, cars back and forth. I wouldn't feel safe with my kids in the backyard that way. No, I'm totally against it. It looks like they're trying to pack 10 pounds of poop in a 5-pound bag, because it just looks like they're trying to develop it because it's probably cheap land. It's gotta be a better, a better area in Waite Park for that type of development than that area.
My name is Jean Sarazine. I live at 1261 Heritage Lane. My concerns follow in the same line of thing with the increased traffic that there will be. Not only that there will be that many more residents, but those type of facilities have a lot of staff that come and go. They also have a lot of deliveries, a lot of medical increased traffic. Many things. Now, I'm not following between the existing apartment and what's planned. Will there be access in that? Do you know what I'm saying? You know, people coming to the existing apartment building, will they be able to go directly to the other apartment building without returning back out to the 2nd Avenue?
I don't know for certain at this time if that would be the intent. The applicant can perhaps share if there's any intent for that. I don't believe there's a connection reflected on the site plan they have, but
because that would really
that could
impact
change.
our neighborhood. We've been impacted already when the first apartment building went in along Heritage Court. The traffic is much greater. And then if people found that the other proposed access, which isn't sounding too great, they'd probably be coming through our area again. So the traffic, the infrastructure, is that all, you know, all these concerns we had before the other apartment building went in, and those are the same concerns now. But right now, my biggest concern is about the increase in traffic and the type of traffic that would be. Also, I live nearest the pond, and many people come to the cul-de-sac by my home to view the ducks and the wildlife there. I don't want to see that interfered with. That would probably be also attraction to the new residents, and they would probably come through the other apartment access because it'd be shorter, more direct. So please consider those things. Thank you.
John, if I could interject, do you know offhand the number of units in the existing development, in the existing complex?
I don't have that count, but I'm sure Mr. McMeredith probably does.
I was just curious for comparison.
Mr. McManus, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anybody else would like to come up and speak for or against?
If you could come to the mic so we can get comments, please. Thank you.
I guess one other question we have, is this going to increase our property taxes, which are high enough already? Can you say whether it will or whether it won't?
I can't say. Property taxes are incredibly complex, but typically more development that's not having any subsidies associated with it is more likely to spread the load of property taxes and drive it down over time.
Okay.
But don't take that as gospel. There's a lot to property taxes besides one proposed project.
Well, I'm just wondering too, I thank you for letting us come and speak our opinions, but is this a done deal? I mean, are we wasting our time? Is there anybody that's for our point of view? That's what I'd like to know. Thank you.
Anybody else, or?
Just could you explain next steps to us? Will you be voting on this tonight, and what happens next?
We will make a recommendation on it tonight, and it goes to city council.
I couldn't hear what you said.
We'll make a recommendation, and then it goes to city council for the final decision.
She was asking what the next steps are for the request.
So do we get to hear your recommendation then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why the open forum is at this time, so the planning commission can take it into account as part of their recommendation and consideration. So now, if there's additional comments, they'll continue to take them. Otherwise, they'll discuss and render a recommendation and decide which way to go with it. And then ultimately, it would go to the city council who makes the final decision.
Gail Bias, 426 Heritage Court. We opposed the first building site, and I think it was all cut and dried when we came to the meeting. And you didn't really, I guess I didn't ask you directly, where will the traffic be going from that building? If the new building is built, how is it going to leave from that building? Which road is it going out of?
It would be traffic would be using the private drive that's owned by the applicant and the property owner. That would be improved to basically be a driveway, and traffic would be coming from egress from that drive onto Second Avenue South.
Right, but she said it was a private drive.
It's a.
Did you say it was a private drive?
I have a legal easement, so I guess as long as I still have egress into my property, the easement is honored.
So that's, it's.
So right now it's privately maintained, but I assume that it would then become publicly maintained.
No, the city, this would not become owned or maintained by the city. It would be private road. It's a driveway.
Is Heritage Court entrance into the Willow Park Apartments private also?
Heritage Drive is public.
Why would this be different?
There's no intent or desire of the city to.
You don't have to. You can allow a multi-unit dwelling and not provide a road.
So it won't be plowed?
It'll be plowed, but it's at their expense. They have to do it themselves.
At whose expense?
At the property owner.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Well, because right now, the legal easement I have says we share that expense, so you can't expect me to share the expense for, and I'll check the wording, I didn't bring it with me, whether or not it's like a 50-50 or what, because before it's only been two owners, and we just worked it out, but I'm not.
Yeah, it's my understanding and coordinating with the city engineer and public works that there's no intent or desire to accept or take this or improve it to a public road. That would be basically it would be improved, but it would stay a private access. Now, that we're not privy to whatever private agreements you have as far as easement or anything, so that would have to be reconciled between you and the owner.
Mark LeBeau again, 1106 Ashwood Court. Who pays for the service master bill with all this construction going on? Plus, who pays for damages for devaluation of the properties? Because it's not going to increase the value of our properties with this road back there. It's guaranteed. That who pays for that?
I can't say. I don't know what you expected me to say on behalf of the city as far as valuations or anything. There's no, if the project happens, it happens. I mean, what the impacts may be on your property, it's extremely complicated. I don't know that it may increase, may decrease. There's many factors involved with that are.
Who pays for, I mean, I'm in construction. I know what big equipment, what the dust and everything, what it does. Who pays for that? We power wash every 2 weeks or what? I mean, I don't understand that. Who pays? I can guarantee you the value of my property will go down because that road's through there and you have 2, 3, I didn't even consider the Amazon vehicles, the deliveries. I didn't even consider that amount of traffic going through there. Would you want it in your backyard? Probably not, would you?
Yeah, I can't say, but it's an existing drive. Would we want that?
Who pays for it? I don't know. Do we get any compensation for anything?
Any of you want it in your backyards, so why would we want it in our backyard? Think about that when you make your decision, please.
I know it creates tax revenue. I do. I know about progress and everything, but at all of our expenses, that's what it does.
Make someone else more money while we lose money.
If it's gonna have to be plowed by that person, where's he gonna plow it to? Out onto Second Avenue? He's gonna have to plow it off to the side and fill everybody's yard. So, no, it's ridiculous.
Anybody else have any comments or?
Procedure thing, you said that you make a recommendation to the council. I thought this was the council?
This is the planning commission. The planning commission reviews the requests, when we get requests that have planning and zoning actions with them. They make a recommendation to the city council, and then the city council then reviews the request and the input from the public hearing, and they would make their final decision. That's at a separate meeting. It would depend on how tonight's meeting goes. It could be as early as next Monday, or it could be at a further meeting if there's a positive recommendation tonight, it would most likely be at the upcoming council meeting that would be for next Monday. But if the planning commission chooses to table the item, then it would be at a future city council meeting to be determined.
Is that information available on the website?
Yes. Yeah, this is the only public hearing that's associated with it. There's not an additional public hearing at the council meeting, but the city council agendas are always public information. They're always posted on the city website.
Again, my name's Ken. I'm at 1305 Heritage Lane. I guess the question is, this building is gonna be built no matter what, because it's zoned. The vote here is just if it can be 3 or 4 stories. Is that correct?
It's to a degree that's correct. I mean, if it would be at the applicant's discretion if they would want to come back if they came back with a design that's met all the standards, that provided the 2.5 stalls per unit and stayed at the 3 stories or 40 feet, then it's essentially shovel ready.
But a building's gonna be built.
It's up to them. I can't say for certain. I don't know if their decision for go or no go hinges on this design or not.
Thank you.
Who is they? Who's they?
The developer.
The applicant, the owner.
Is he here?
Yes.
It's not a good idea.
Want to speak? Yeah.
I'm here. Hi, I'm Bob McManus from McMeredith Development and Regency Builders. Thank you for all your comments. If you have more, by all means, I can give you my cell phone. You can call me.
You can meet us at our office, and we can go over any of your concerns. We're here today to talk about the height of the building. John had mentioned 55 feet. We're trying to bring it down as low as we can. We're at like 49 feet right now, but we want to keep it so if we have it, we go over a little bit, or if we go under, but we're trying to make this a very low profile look to the building. And I think it'll be a plus for the neighborhood. It will be an upscale building with everything from granite countertops to upscale appliances. It'll be a beautiful building, community room, library, puzzle room, party room. And the thing is this building is being built on around 9 acres. And development-wise, 9 acres, you could put a lot more units on 9 acres. Our other building right next to it is 63 units. This one will be roughly 66, maybe 65, maybe 67, somewhere around that. So we're leaving all these other acres to wildlife. And many of these concerns came up when we built the building next door about drainage, about traffic, and things like this. And now in that neighborhood from Heritage, we have people moving into our building that lived next door. And I guess the road, if it's an issue at all, it's a private road. We've owned that road for 25 years. Before that, a construction company owned that road. That road has been there before those many houses were developed. The construction company had heavy equipment going on that road. And what we plan on doing is all of the traffic that comes off that apartment, and I know some of you mentioned it, you don't want it to go through your neighborhood. It won't go through Heritage. It'll go up our private road. It'll be an improved road, and the neighbors don't have to worry about anything. It'll we will take care of it, and we'll provide that it will be up to standards. And I guess the thing is that it, like the one man mentioned, there'll be lots of traffic on that road. What we have found is on a 55 unit, you don't get very much traffic. People a lot of times won't leave the apartment for days. Some people don't drive. And if you look in Heritage, and we built that building 12 years ago, Willow Park, it works in the neighborhood. There isn't that much traffic, and I go there every day. But as far as why are we here, as far as the height goes, and the parking goes, I think the one thing is if we make less parking, we will have more trees, we will have more wildlife, and it'll be much more aesthetically pleasing instead of, like at our Willow Park building, we have a huge parking lot with no cars in it. We built the Windsor Green building behind Dick's Sporting Goods store. We have all this parking, nobody parks in it. So we're asking for less to make the neighborhood look better. And what we have done to all the other developments that we have developed in Wade Park, we try to make them user-friendly for the whole neighborhood. That pond there, there's an island in that pond. We intend on improving that so it'll be a nice park-like setting. The neighbors can come down, sit on a bench, and watch the ducks. We will have to put in a retention pond. When we put a retention pond in, we get Prairie Restoration to come in, put in wildflowers around the retention pond to make it look good. And over the last 20, 25 years, I don't know if you know McMeredith Development, Regency Builders, we built the Windsor Green Apartments. We developed the Windsor Green patio home development behind Dick's Sporting Good, all those patio homes. Willow Creek Patio Homes, there's 99 units there. We developed that. We dedicated that park that's on Second, all those acres, and there's a walkway that goes through there. We dedicated that to the city. Willow Pond Patio Homes, that's 145 units. We dug that 8-acre pond. So it looks nice for the neighbors. Everybody walks around it. It's great for wildlife. Heritage Point, where a lot of you people live, we developed that area. We built some of the single-family homes. We built the apartment building. And I think it's a nice-looking neighborhood there. We built Willow Park Apartments. And now we're asking for this. And I think we've been a good neighbor here in Wade Park over the last 30 years. And we can go back to all those other developments that I've just stated. And if you knock on anybody's door, I think people will be happy that the way it's turned out. If you have any concerns, we listen to you. And it will be a beautiful building set on a park-like setting. And the way we set it up, if you have that schematic, the way the building is, we tucked it back into we tried to get it away from everybody, into the trees, and we're going to leave, there's maybe, I don't know, a couple hundred trees on the site. We'll try to leave as many as we can, and I think it'll be a win-win situation.
Can I ask what your phone number is?
320-267-5597. 267-5597. So we're asking this, the property, 12 years ago when we built this, it was zoned for an apartment building. And we're just asking for a little bit higher on the roof and a slightly lower number for parking. But it is zoned for an apartment building, and we plan on putting an apartment building there.
Okay. You have a quick question, or?
I have a quick question.
If you could come to the mic as best you can, please.
I've been there twice, 426 Heritage Court. I speak quite loudly. And,
We need to be able to pick it up for recording, I'm sorry.
okay. Hi, I'm 426 Heritage Court, Gail Bias. Yes, you made a pond for me behind my house, but you planted wildflowers that never grew, and all I get is quack coming into my yard. I have thistle. I was promised walkways with your benches, and that hasn't happened. And, oh, there was one other thing, and traffic. You come and sit by my house and you count those cars that go past my house. There's more than a few, a lot. So don't tell me there's just limited traffic. That is not true. So there is going to be a lot of traffic from your apartment if you add even more. So, you know, when you say things, then you should follow through on things. But I see that not happening, so I don't know if we can trust what you're saying, so I guess I'm opposing the whole situation.
I can address that real quick. The pond that's behind your house, it's a real trick to do wildflowers. And,
it's weeds.
yeah, and the other thing as far as traffic goes, if you look at a 55 building, the traffic is minimal. But here's the great thing about this building, unlike yours, Willow Park goes right through your neighborhood. We are going to have no cars go through your neighborhood when we build this. All of the cars will go out our private road onto Second. They're not going through anybody's neighborhood.
I'm Tanya Bennett, 1100 Ashwood Court. All those cars are coming in my backyard now. And if you're beautifying your area, you're deteriorating my area. And I don't agree with that.
The only point I can make to that is, again, that road was there before your house was there. And that road was a private road for a construction company. And when we bought, and when we bought the property 25 years ago, it's a private road, and we've always planned on putting a second apartment building there and using the private road. But I guess what we're talking about, I'm sorry, do you want to speak?
Yeah. I'm Jean Sarazine, 1261 Heritage Lane. You generalized about the people over 55 not driving so much. If they're not driving so much, they have family, they have business things. I don't think it decreases the traffic. It might have it more in the daytime than in the evening, than with a younger clientele, but I don't see any decrease. You have not clarified if there's going to be access between the two apartment developments. That's a big, big concern, because if there is, I bet you a dime to a dollar that those people will come through our thing. Sure. And also, when you talked about putting attractive things around the pond and so forth, will there be any parking space there? Because the people now, even from other areas, they come and they park in the cul-de-sac by me, which is fine. Yeah, if you don't have some access and parking spot on the other side, nearer to your building, they're going to cut through and come into our neighborhood and do that.
Thank you. The entire apartment, all of the cars that come in and out will be on the private road that will exit out on Second. But what we're asking here today is we're asking for the variance on the height of the building. And that's what we're asking for, and we're also asking for a variance on the parking. All these other things, this is not part of the variance.
Okay, let me break this down in just a couple items here. It's not a done deal. This is why we have this meeting, to take input. The Planning Commission takes this into consideration. After comments wrap up, they'll discuss and decide what they'll decide. The property is and has been zoned for 10 plus years. It's been platted. It's been ready for an additional building. It's only here because, again, the variance component. Had they not come in with a building, if they wanted to stay at 2 stories or 3 stories and met that 2.5 stalls per unit, yeah, we could issue a building permit. Not every single planning action requires a a public hearing or a planning commission meeting or a city council approval. I'm sorry you don't like that that's the case, but it's been zoned 10, 12 years at least for another apartment building.
You know, and the point is that with 8 or 9 acres, you know, we could put 80 units or 90 units on the property. We don't want to do that. We just want to keep it down to 66. That's what our other 2 buildings are roughly. And I think it's going to be a perfect fit for the neighborhood, and I think it'll be a win-win for everyone.
So can I ask Mr. McManus, how tall is your other building just to the south, the Willow Loop? How tall is that one?
The Willow Park building,
Yeah.
right there, I think it's about 40 feet. And this will be about 8 to 9 feet higher. And we've pushed the building way back, if you can see it in that schematic. So there's nobody to the west except for this.
And just because I'm one
except,
little person.
No, except for this young lady here. And if you look to the south, it would be looking at our building, heading towards Heritage. We try to push it as far as we could away from Heritage Point. So the profile will be, I think, pretty low.
So if you had to keep it at 40 feet, how many units could you get with the design you have now? Or would you have to redesign it and make it longer and wider to get 66 units? Is that what you're saying? Is that the topography is?
I'm sorry, say that again?
If the height restriction, if we vote to recommend to keep it and not permit a variance and keep it at 40 feet, how many units can you realistically get? Given the topography limitation, how many units would you be able to do?
Well, we still could do the 66. We would just have to change the roof line.
So then what does that mean for the neighbors? Would it be less aesthetic, or would it be better for Minnesota winters, or what does that mean to a layperson?
Well, if you have a less pitch on a roof, you know, for ice and snow and
Right.
things like that, it's not a great thing, but it certainly can be done. And yeah.
So it'd be more on the roof line, that you'd probably still have the same number of units, but
with this extra feet, the building will look much more, it'll fit more into the neighborhood. Yeah, the peaks will be a little higher, and that will give the building a nice look to it. Otherwise, we'll have to just take them all down.
Are you already having water issues that you want to go higher rather than dig down?
You know, and we've never had water issues in Willow Park. I know somebody brought this up, ever. And we've done soil samples, we've done drilling out there. I think we pretty much have a good handle on it. And if we dig down, there's granite in the area. And it's better to build on top because of the high price and the nature of granite. It goes up, then it goes down, and then, you know, we have granite outcroppings on the property itself. So I think we've really got a nice design considering the topography that's there. I'm sorry.
I'm Cindy Swarth out 1261, or 65 Heritage Lane. Anyway, I just wanted to ask you, what are those bushes there, or the parking is gonna be? And how, is that a fence up there, or what is it?
Those are trees, and I think our architect put those in. But right along there already are a lot of trees right along the lot line. But what we usually do is we try to go in after and put up like pine trees and things like that to break up the look from
Yeah, 'cause some of those
neighborhood
trees
to
are
neighborhood.
dying. But then is that a fence that goes by the parking there, or that's beyond the trees there, those lines?
No,
Is that parking, or what is it?
There's no fence. What we would follow is, Wake Park has a guideline for parking lots, right, John?
Correct, for
we
areas where
We would
there's parking.
landscape around the parking lots, so you really don't see the parking lots. I
Yeah.
think it's a 3 or 4 foot.
Yeah, for areas that are where parking lots of more than 5 stalls meet up against residential areas or, residential homes, single-family quads like in this case. There's a requirement that there has to be at least a 3.5-foot buffer. It could be through a combination of fencing or berm or plantings or some combination thereof. But the intent is that it blocks most headlights from the movement of traffic from projecting into people's houses to some degree at least. Doesn't account for every single vehicle, but the idea is to minimize it a little bit.
Okay, now the parking, how far would it be from where I live? Just how many feet or whatever would that parking lot be? Is that the whole back part there?
I don't know. We'd have to look at the scale to see how far it would be.
Yeah.
We like the buffer between our property and the dirt road. If we can keep it.
So the road would go behind the building or in front of it?
It's gonna go in front. On the dirt road.
The parking lot would be in, if you call it the front of the building, yes, parking lot there.
So I just wanted to add, from a historical perspective, because I've been attending these meetings since we were St. Cloud Township. And just to add that, this may be a private road, but when it was owned by the construction company, it was routed around basically where some of your houses all are now. Heisek's still farmed where the Ashwood courthouses are now. And so it was a different era. So that's not really a germane kind of point. And secondly, part of the reason that this area was zoned this way is because it is there is not a lot of, you say it's 9 acres, but it's not really 9 buildable acres because of the wetlands, because of the outcroppings,